My name is Ava Calder. I'm 30 years old. And for a long time my family treated me less like a daughter and more like an ATM with anxiety. The kind that never says no. The kind that apologizes when the card gets declined, even if it shouldn't have been used in the first place. By the time the picnic happened, I was working 70-hour weeks at a job everyone vaguely described as computer stuff. No one ever asked what I actually did. They just knew the checks cleared, and somehow that became the only part that mattered. I was already regretting agreeing to that family picnic when I pulled into the park and saw my sister unloading a designer cooler from the back of her boyfriend Ethan's car. It was ridiculous. The cooler alone probably cost more than a normal family's grocery bill for a month. She set it down next to a hand-woven picnic basket and a monogram blanket like she was posing for a lifestyle blog. Ethan leaned against the car with his sunglasses on, doing absolutely nothing except existing near her, which seemed to be his full-time job. My mom waved me over without enthusiasm, a lazy flap of the hand, like she was swatting a fly. My dad gave me the same distracted nod he always did when pretending I hadn't just walked in. A nod that said, "I see you, but you're not the main event." I walked up carrying a plastic grocery bag from the discount store because that's what I could manage between shifts. Off-brand chips and 2 cans of soda. I didn't even bother putting them in a bowl. Why pretend? The rest of the usual suspects were already there. My cousin Rebecca, who never pays for anything, but somehow always has her nails done in elaborate designs that probably cost half my electric bill. My Aunt Joanne, who has never said it outright, but still manages to make my name sound like it's short for mistake. The air was thick with that performative warmth families like ours put on when they want to look united in public but secretly can't stand each other. The kind of fake cheer that smells like sunscreen and resentment. I was the only one who didn't bother hiding it. I sat through 2 hours of passive-aggressive jokes. They teased me for being single, for not dressing up, for not smiling more. My mom made a comment about how some of us know how to grow up and settle down. My dad chuckled like he understood the punchline. I let it all slide. That was always the game. They mock, I ignore, and the world keeps turning. I checked my phone once under the table. A text from Ben, my boyfriend, blinked up on the screen. "How's it going? Do I need to fake an emergency call?" I smiled despite myself. "Don't tempt me," I wrote back. "They've upgraded from regular guilt to premium today." He sent a laughing emoji, then another message. "Remember Sophie? This is how it started with her too. Death by 1,000 jokes. Don't let them make you the punchline in the paycheck." Sophie was his ex. She drained his savings with emergencies that always seemed to involve designer shoes and weekend trips. He'd told me once late at night that the scariest part wasn't losing the money. It was realizing he'd trained himself to think he deserved to be used if it meant someone stayed. I slipped my phone back into my pocket. Deep breath, smile, tolerate. 2 more rounds of sarcastic comments later, my sister decided she needed a spotlight. She loved to toast at family gatherings like we were at a wedding, and she was the maid of honor, even when the only thing we were celebrating was surviving another week without the house collapsing. She clinked her overpriced wine glass with a manicured nail and called out, "Everyone, can I have your attention?" Course she could. Everyone grew quiet like they were trained. My mom turned toward her with proud eyes. My dad straightened in his camp chair. Rebecca leaned in, already giggling. My sister lifted her glass and looked straight at me, all teeth and gloss. "Here's to the one who always shows up," she said, voice dripping with mock sympathy. Broke, discouraged, and still trying so hard to be important. Laughter, real laughter. Even my mom, even my dad. My ears burned for a split second. The world blurred at the edges. I remembered the time I Venmo'd my sister $600 so her lights wouldn't get shut off. The time I sent my parents my whole bonus just for this month so they could pay their mortgage. The countless transfers labeled rent help and just so you're not stressed. Broke, discouraged, still trying to be important, I didn't laugh. Instead, I picked up my cheap plastic cup filled with flat soda and lifted it exactly the way she did. My voice came out calm. "To the desperate woman," I said, "who just closed the account she was paying your rent from." For the first time in years, I had their full attention. You could hear a kid crying somewhere else in the park. A bird flapped away from a nearby tree. The ice in someone's cup shifted with a tiny clink. My sister's smile fell like a dropped plate. My mom's eyes darted to my dad. My dad stared at his drink like maybe he could crawl inside it. No one laughed. I didn't explain, didn't flinch. I tipped the cup back, finished my drink, wiped my hands on a napkin and stood. "I'll be heading out," I said. No one stopped me. No one asked where I was going. No one asked if I was okay. That was the magic of my family. I could flip their entire world on its head, and they would still pretend nothing was happening. I walked back to my car with my plastic grocery bag swinging by my side, my heart hammering and my mind strangely clear. By the time I pulled out of the parking lot, my phone buzzed. "Ben, what did they do now?" I stared at the screen for a long second. "I finally did something back," I replied. "I think I just quit being their bank." Days went by. They didn't acknowledge the picnic. No group chat messages. No, that was out of line or we need to talk. I worked. Slept. I answered Ben's questions with vague, exhausted jokes. I pretended I didn't feel the tension rolling toward me like a slow wave. On the 8th day it hit. My phone buzzed. "Hey, Renst, can you send the usual tone-tund?" It was from my sister. No greeting, no "how are you," just an expectation written like a recurring subscription. I didn't respond. Not at first. I put my phone face down and went for a walk. Bought myself lunch. Sat in the park with a book. Took a nap on my couch. Hours later I picked up my phone. Opened the message. Typed 2 letters. Mo. I hit send. Call started. I let them ring out. Then the text came. "What do you mean no? Are you serious? You can't just stop. It's hard right now. Ethan's been looking for work. I'm already behind." I leaned back against my pillows, thumbs hovering. Then I wrote, "Move in with Mom and Dad. They have space. You can regroup there." Her reply was instant. "That's ridiculous. I can't just move back home. You're being vindictive." "No," I wrote. "I'm being realistic. It's time for you and Ethan to live within your means." She didn't like that. This time she didn't argue with me. She escalated. She called our parents. The next day I got a long voicemail from my mom. She tried to sound calm, but I could hear the fury under every word. "Ava, honey," she said, voice all sugar and acid. "We're family. We help each other. You're blowing things out of proportion. Your sister is just having a hard time right now. We thought we were a team." I texted her back. "If you're that worried, you can help her. But don't ask me to keep paying for people who treat me like trash." An hour later my dad called. His voice was tight-clipped. "So, you're cutting her off?" he said. "For real?" "Yes," I said. "I am." There was a pause. "All right," he said slowly. "And, while we're on the subject, you might want to give us a heads up if you're planning to stop helping with the mortgage too. It's due soon. $3,400. You're not walking away from that, are you?" I stared at the wall at the tiny crack in the paint above my TV. At some point I said, "You might want to get that mortgage in order yourself because next month I won't be paying that either." Silence. Then a laugh, ugly, disbelieving. "You wouldn't dare," he said. But this time I did. And for the first time in my life, I enjoyed imagining the world tilting back toward me. My dad's laugh stayed with me long after the call ended. "You wouldn't dare." Like he was daring me, like I was still the girl who always blinked first, who always caved, who always sent the transfer with a knot in her stomach and a smile in her voice. The funny part was he really believed it. He really believed there was no version of me that would choose myself over them. The first test came faster than I expected. Rent day. My phone buzzed at 9:03 a.m. "Hey, landlord's asking. Need that $12,200 like now. Don't make this a thing." I stared at the message, imagined my sister in her curated apartment, the one with the exposed brick and live laugh love signs that never saw a real crisis. My thumbs hovered. Typed one word. "Mo." Her reply came in waves. "Stop being childish. This isn't funny. I'm getting actual eviction warnings. Ava, you can't just cut me off. This isn't just hurting me. It's hurting Ethan too. You said you'd help until we were stable. Stable. 7 months of rent. 7 months of her looking for something better. 7 months of Ethan between opportunities while he played video games and $90 hoodies. You've had 7 months, I wrote back. That's enough time to get stable or at least move somewhere you can actually afford. He tried guilt. I'm crying. I can't believe you do this. You're punishing me for being the younger one. You don't care about family. You never have. I watched the typing bubble appear, disappear, reappear. Then another message. If I can't make it work, I'll have to break my lease. We'll have to move back in with mom and dad. That one made me pause. Not because I felt responsible, because I heard the thing beneath the words. It wasn't the moving that terrified her. It was the shame. My sister spent years curating an image of herself as the successful put-together one. Downtown apartment, designer cooler, monogrammed blankets. She built a whole identity on the idea that her life was upward and glossy. Moving back into her teenage bedroom. That was social death. I replied instantly. Perfect. That's exactly what I suggested. Sounds responsible. She didn't answer after that, but I knew she read it. The mortgage was next. I'd been slipping money each month into an account my parents used to pay it. $3,400 a month on a house they couldn't afford without a miracle, or a daughter who worked herself into the ground. First, it had felt like the right thing to do. They were panicked. My dad talked about losing the house. My mom cried at the kitchen table. They said it was just until your father's pension gets sorted. That was 4 months ago. 4 months of just this once. 4 months of we'll pay you back when things calm down. Things never calmed down. They just learned to build their chaos on top of my exhaustion. This time I let the due date come and go. No transfer, no last-minute rescue, just silence for a day. Then my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. First the group chat. Mom, we need to talk. Then individual blitz. Mom, you forgot the mortgage. I'm sure it was a mistake. We've been counting on you. Dad, bank called. Payment missing. What's going on? I didn't respond right away. I was at my desk staring at a spreadsheet, realizing that for the first time in months, my checking account wasn't already emptied by other people's emergencies. I made myself a cup of coffee, sat in the break room, watched the foam swirl. Then my phone rang. Dad, I answered. So, you're seriously cutting us off too? He asked. No, hello, no preamble. Yes, I said. I am. You could hear the air leave his lungs. You wouldn't dare, he said again. But the laugh wasn't there this time, just disbelief. I already did, I replied. You left us in the lurch, he snapped. You know how hard things are. We've been counting on you. We thought we were a team, Ava. Teams practice. Teams participate. Teams share the weight. They weren't a team. They were a load. You didn't treat me like part of a team, I said. You treated me like a direct deposit. That's not fair, he argued. Family helps each other. That's how it's always been. Exactly. I said. Family helps each other. Helped you. You laughed at me in public and then expected the transfer in private. Those aren't the same thing. He went quiet. I could hear my mom in the background whispering something. We could lose the house. He finally said, You want that on your conscience? No, I replied. But I'm not going to carry it on my back anymore. If you're that worried, talk to the bank. Downsize, sell, get assistance. There are options. I'm not one of them anymore. The line crackled. This isn't you, he said softly, like he was talking to a stranger. It's always been me, I said. You're just seeing it now that I'm not paying for everything. He hung up. No goodbye. No I love you. Just the click of a man who realized his favorite crutch had been kicked out from under him. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. No calls, no texts. Just a heavy silence pressing in around my new choices. I almost started to think maybe they were trying to figure it out. Maybe they were actually talking to lenders, looking for work, cutting back. Then my cousin Jeremy called. Jeremy always knew when drama was brewing. He collected gossip like art. Hey, he said, voice casual. You good? I'm fine, I said. Why? Because, he drawled. I just heard through Aunt Tanya that your parents' place is in pre-foreclosure. Word is the bank sent them a notice, and word is no one knew you were the one paying it until now. Closed my eyes. Course. When I was paying, it was invisible. When I stopped, suddenly it was a scandal. Guess the family grapevine's busy, I said. You're the villain of the week, Jeremy added with a faint, sympathetic chuckle. They're saying you turned your back on your parents. That you could have prevented this. I've been preventing it, I said quietly. For months. He was silent for a second. Yeah, he said. I figured it was something like that. After we hung up, I sat on my couch and stared at the wall. The irony was incredible. For nearly a year, I'd been paying my sister's rent and my parents' mortgage. A total of $4,600 a month. Quietly, consistently, like it was the natural order of things. No one praised me. No one asked if I could handle it. No one ever said thank you. They teased me for working too much, for always being tired, for still trying to be important. Now, with the money gone, everything ugly was suddenly visible. They weren't managing their lives. They were being carried by me. And the second I put my arms down, they didn't just fall. They crashed into each other, clawing for something soft to land on. For the first time, they had to look at themselves without my income smoothing over every consequence. It wasn't pretty. My sister had to pack boxes and move back into the bedroom with the glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. Ethan lasted a few days before packing a bag and announcing he needed space. My parents had to meet with bank officers, explain missed payments, swallow the humiliation of admitting they'd built a lifestyle on a daughter they mocked. I didn't reach out. I didn't ask. I waited. And when the call finally came, it wasn't what I expected. It was my mom, her voice shaking with anger, not fear. So she said, skipping hello. You're really going to let us lose everything over a few mean jokes? Over a toast? Took a breath. This isn't about a toast, I said. That was just the first time I told the truth out loud. You're being dramatic, Ava, she snapped. We're your parents, your sister. We thought we were a team. We thought we raised you better than this. You raised me to believe I had to pay for love, I said. I'm unlearning that silence. She didn't know what to do with that sentence. We're in a tough spot, she tried again, switching to pleading. Just for a little while. If you could help again. I'm not sending money, I cut in. But I'll come to dinner. There was a pause. Dinner, she repeated, thrown off. Yes, I said. Tomorrow you dad me. Maybe Madison if she can drag herself downstairs. My sister. Mom exhaled sharply. Fine, she said. 7 o'clock. She hung up before I could say goodbye. I stared at my phone at my reflection faintly mirrored in the dark screen. Ben texted a second later. Everything okay? Type. They lost the padding I was providing. Now they're hitting the floor. They want me to be a cushion again. And you? He wrote. I'm done being a cushion, I replied. But I'll bring a mirror. The next night, I stood on my parents' front step with my hand hovering over the doorbell, realizing that for the first time in years, I wasn't arriving as the fixer. I was arriving as someone who might finally let things break. I stood outside my parents' front door with my hand hovering over the bell, feeling something unfamiliar. Quiet power. Not anger, not fear. Just the certainty that whatever happened in that house tonight, I wasn't carrying it again. Press the button. My mom opened the door after a few seconds. She didn't hug me. She didn't smile. She just stepped aside, chin lifted like she was doing me a favor. The house smelled different than I remembered. Stale air, cold leftovers, stress. It wasn't the home I grew up in. It felt smaller, like the walls had caved inward without all the money I'd been patching them up with. I followed her to the dining room, and that's when the whole picture hit me. Bills, stacks of them spread across one side of the table like a deck of losing cards, mortgage notices, late fees, utilities with red lettering. It was all out in the open now, no illusions left. On the other side, 2 reheated trays of lasagna. My dad sat in his chair looking like he hadn't slept in weeks. My sister Madison was conspicuously absent. I knew she was home. I could hear footsteps upstairs. She just didn't want to face me. My mom gestured stiffly. Sec. We made small talk. The kind that barely qualifies as conversation. How's work? Fine. Still doing that computer stuff. You eating enough? I'm 30, Mum. Manage. Dad poked half-heartedly at his lasagna. Then after the fakest attempt at normally, my mom leaned forward. So she began, voice tightening. We're in a tough spot right now. There was the real dinner. Really? I said I never would have guessed. Her eyes narrowed for a moment, then softened into that manipulative maternal tone she loved so much. We're asking for just a little help, she said. Just until things stabilize. Dad jumped in, nodding vigorously. You've always stepped up. We need you to do it a little longer as a family. No, I said. The word sat heavy in the air. Mom blinked like she genuinely couldn't comprehend it. No, she echoed. Ava, this isn't the time for pride. It's not pride, I said. It's boundary. Her lips pressed into a line. Dad folded his arms. You can't stay angry forever, he said. This isn't healthy. I almost laughed. This isn't about anger, I said. It's about math and respect. They stared. So I laid it out. Calm, precise, unflinching. You mocked me when I struggled, I said. You mocked me at that picnic while I was paying your house payment. You ridiculed my job, my clothes, my life, while I was covering your mortgage and her rent without a single thank you. My dad's jaw tightened. You're twisting things, he muttered. No, I said. This is the first time in years I'm saying them clearly. My mom tried another angle. We thought we were a team. A team. Cut in. Paid. You laughed. That's not a team. That's exploitation. Silence. Real silence. The kind that means everyone finally heard the truth, whether they wanted to or not. My dad looked away first. Then my mom looked down. She didn't defend. She didn't argue. She didn't even try to guilt trip. She just sat there absorbing it. And for the first time I saw something flicker behind her eyes. Recognition maybe, or shame. But I didn't let the moment hang. There's something else, I said. They looked up. 1 month from now I'm hosting a picnic, just us, same place as the last one. Their faces lit with tiny hopeful sparks. Mom even sat up straighter. And she asked, and I continued that day, I'll tell you my final decision, whether I'll ever help again, whether things change or end for good. I saw the gears turning in my dad's mind. He thought he'd won something. He thought this was me cracking, offering them another chance. Mom nodded like this was a negotiation she now had hope for. Okay, she said softly. Okay. But while they were imagining me walking in with apologies and a checkbook, I was imagining something else entirely. I stood, grabbed my bag and pushed in my chair. Thanks for dinner, I said. Dad stared at his plate. Mom forced a smile. And upstairs, Madison still refused to come down, not even for a moment. I walked out feeling lighter than I had in months. On the way home, I stopped at a drive-thru and ordered myself a burger. Something cheap but warm. I sat in my parked car, unwrapped it, took a bite, and something in my chest loosened. This meal tasted like something I hadn't had in years. No guilt, no obligation, no weight of the next bank transfer. I watched the lights of the city flicker through my windshield and realized something. I wasn't afraid anymore. Not of disappointing them, not of being the bad daughter, not of walking away. They were scared for once. Scared of what life looked like when I stopped cushioning every fall. Scared of losing their safety net. Scared of being forced to do what I'd been doing alone for years. And the most surprising part, it didn't make me feel powerful. It made me feel peaceful. Because for the first time in a very, very long time, the consequences were theirs, not mine. The month after that dinner moved strangely, slow, quiet, and heavy in the way a storm is quiet right before it breaks open the sky. At first, I thought the silence meant my family was planning something. Maybe a dramatic guilt intervention, maybe waiting me out. Maybe they were convinced I'd come crawling back with apologies and a checkbook. But nothing came. Audit. Told him yes. The next day, an old neighbor messaged me. Your mom dropped by asking about your work promotion. Said you're hosting something soon. Everything okay? Ah, there it was. They were spreading the news like I was returning from battle with treasure. I knew exactly what narrative Mom was weaving in her head. Ava comes back triumphant. Apologizes for being harsh. Announces she'll keep helping. Maybe even hands out envelopes like some kind of benevolent overlord. They wanted a redemption story, so I decided to give them one, just not the one they expected. I spent the next week calling in favors. Real favors, not guilt favors. My sister Madison's old manager, who still remembered her ghosting 3 shifts in a row. He wasn't willing to take her back, but he knew a clinic across town, desperate for a part-time assistant, a former co-worker of my dad's, who now ran inventory for a construction supplier. He needed someone reliable to manage equipment and check shipments. I told him my dad was available, a woman my mom used to volunteer with at a community kitchen before she stopped going because it wasn't her crowd. They needed help prepping food and running donation drives. One by one doors opened. Not glamorous doors, not egoistic doors, but real ones, earnest ones, the kinds of doors that lead to responsibility instead of dependence. I printed everything, labeled them, placed them in a neat folder. Then the day arrived. The picnic area looked smaller than last time. Maybe because I wasn't emotionally collapsing into my own shadow this time. I set the table with plain sandwiches, water bottles, napkins, and 1 chair for me. They could figure out the rest. My family arrived in waves, each entrance more theatrical than the last. My sister came dressed like she was heading to brunch with influencers, floral dress, curled hair, makeup that couldn't hide the exhaustion under her eyes. My mom brought a kitsch in a cooler like she was auditioning for Best Host. My dad wore sunglasses even though the sky was mostly gray. They were smiling. Those tight, brittle smiles people wear when they're rehearsing how everything will go their way. They really thought today was the day I'd fold. When everyone sat down, the smiles turned expectant. My sister tilted her head with faux sweetness. "So," she said, "what's this all about?" My mom clasped her hands like she was receiving communion. "We're ready to talk," she added. My dad leaned forward. "Well, we're here." And I placed the folder on the table, then handed each of them a paper. My sister frowned, laughing a little like she assumed it was a joke. "What is this?" she asked. "A job interview," said. "They're expecting your call." Her smile froze. My mom glared. My dad blinked like he was buffering. I pushed 3 papers toward my sister. A clinic looking for a part-time assistant. Call center hiring. A dental office receptionist position. Her voice cracked. "You're kidding." "No," I said. "These are actual opportunities. You asked for help. You need work. These are jobs." She tossed the papers down like they were hot. My mom grabbed her sheet. It was an application for the non-profit kitchen. She looked horrified. "You want me to slice potatoes in a high ret?" She hissed. "You're good with people," I said. "And they need volunteers who can take on hours. It's honest work." She recoiled. My dad picked up his sheet. "Inventory manager for a construction supplier." "What's this?" he asked, offended. "Job," I said. "You need income. They'll take you. Good hours, benefits." He stared at it like it was written in a language he refused to learn. Then the eruption hit. My sister shot to her feet. "This is cruel," she snapped. "You're trying to embarrass us." My mom shook her head. "How dare you treat us like we're your employees?" My dad glared. "You think this is funny? You think you're teaching us some lesson?" I let them vent. Let them spit out every insult, every accusation. Then I said it. "You asked for help. This is help." Silence slammed down. Real thick, suffocating silence. And in that stunned quiet, the truth sat in front of them like an uninvited guest. Work wasn't beneath them. They just always had me. Eventually they packed up their cooler, slammed lids, stuffed leftovers, and walked away without a goodbye. My sister left her job sheets on the table. My mom slammed hers into her purse like she wanted to wrinkle it out of existence. My dad didn't say a word, and I sat alone at the picnic table, a folder in front of me, untouched sandwiches at my side. But I didn't feel alone. For the first time in my life I felt awake. Felt clean. I felt like a person instead of a bank. 3 days later my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. A woman's voice. "Hi, this is the clinic you called last week. I just wanted to thank you for referring your friend. Madison interviewed Monday. She started today. So far so good." Froze. Madison took the job. Madison did something responsible. I sat on my bed, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to a stranger compliment the sister who thought work was beneath her. After the call ended, I stared at the wall. I didn't text her. I didn't brag. I didn't even tell Ben. I just waited. 4 days later my phone buzzed. It was my sister. "Started work. It's fine. Don't get used to me thanking you, but I'm not quitting." No emoji, no passive aggression, no pretense, just facts. I almost replied, but then I didn't. Some things don't need a ribbon tied on them. After my sister's unexpected text, days passed quietly. Quiet in the way freshly fallen snow is quiet. Everything felt softer, slower, different. It was the first time in years I wasn't bracing for someone to need something from me. No last-minute emergencies, no guilt-laced voicemails, no "hey, quick question" followed by a dollar amount. Just stillness. And then, like seeds buried in frozen soil, small changes started breaking through. The first shift came from my dad. I was on my lunch break, scrolling through work emails when my phone buzzed. Text from him. No hello, no preamble. "Got forklift certified today. My back's not thrilled, but it's good work." I stared at the message for a full minute. He'd taken the warehouse inventory job. He hadn't called to fight or blame me. He hadn't pretended it was beneath him. He hadn't asked for money. He just told me. And the tone wasn't bitter. It sounded like a man who'd found something solid to stand on for the first time in years. I didn't reply, not out of anger, but because it didn't require anything from me. It wasn't a transaction. It was a fact. And facts don't need applause. A few days later, Jeremy, the cousin who always knows everything, sent me a picture from across town. It was my mom, hair tied back in a simple bun, wearing an apron, standing at a prep station in the community kitchen, chopping vegetables, focused, present, working. The picture came with his text. "Look who's putting in the hours." My mom, the woman who used to say food service work was for people with no options, was covered in flour and not making a spectacle of herself. She hadn't told anyone she'd taken the job, not even me. But that made it more real, more honest. Quiet shift in gravity. 2 weeks after the job fair picnic, Madison posted something online. A picture taken in a public bathroom mirror. No filters, no beach, no cocktail glass. Just her in scrubs holding up her new ID badge. No caption, just a single emoji. For someone like her, that was practically a personal manifesto. The comments from her friends were supportive. "So proud of you. Yes, girl. Work it. Big step." I didn't comment. I didn't have to. She wasn't doing it for me, and that was the point. Then one night around 10 p.m., I was cleaning out my email inbox when a name popped up I hadn't expected. My mom's subject line, "None." The body, "I didn't realize how much we relied on you until we had to rely on ourselves. We're trying even if it's late." I read it 3 times. Not an apology, not manipulation, not guilt, just truth. The first honest thing she'd said to me in years. I didn't respond that night or the next day. Some acknowledgments don't need instant answers. They just need room to breathe. The next few weeks moved in a strange new rhythm. I'd wake up, make coffee, sit by my apartment window and just be. Not calculating which bill I could cover next. Not carrying the weight of 3 adults on my back. Not rehearsing defensive explanations. Just me, my income, my life. I started cooking more, sleeping better, walking without a knot in my chest. My money stayed in my account long enough to feel like my money. I even booked a solo trip, one-way flight, flexible return. I didn't know where I'd go after the first city. I just knew I could go because no one needed me to stay, because no one needed my bank login to function. Because no one was waiting to drain me dry the second I took a breath. Then it happened. The moment I didn't know I was waiting for. A Saturday morning in a small local coffee shop, I was reading, nursing a latte, enjoying the serenity of being an adult who didn't owe anyone anything. When I heard a voice, "Ava," I looked up. Madison in scrubs, holding a to-go cup, a grocery bag looped over one arm, exhausted, human. She looked normal, not polished, not posing, not performing, just a young woman trying to get through life like the rest of us. She sat down across from me without asking. I didn't mind. We didn't talk about the past. No apologies, no rehashing, no bitterness, just small things. "Work's intense." "Yeah, clinic people are nice." "That's good, Ethan." "Well, whatever." "Yeah, we talked about the weather, about how weird adulthood is, about how coffee is suddenly a personality trait." There was a pause. She looked down at her cup. Then she said very quietly, "You were right." She didn't look up when she added, "We needed it. All of it." She stood, tossed her empty cup, gave me an awkward half-wave and walked out. I watched her cross the street, sunlight catching the crease in her scrubs. For the first time, she wasn't the sister I resented. She was the sister I hoped she could become. 2 days later, my dad texted again. Photo this time, a grill caption. "Bought this with my own damn paycheck." Smiled. Mom emailed me again a week after that. Flyer for a community food drive. She didn't ask me for money. She didn't ask me to come. "Just share if you can." And I did. Not out of duty, not out of guilt. But because helping her now didn't cost me anything I couldn't afford. And me, I didn't go back to paying their bills. Not then. Not after the coffee shop, not after the grill, not after the food drive, because I didn't need to. And for the first time they didn't ask. They were earning, working, showing up. They'd stopped looking at me as a rescue boat and started learning how to swim. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't magical. It didn't undo the years of imbalance, but it was something real. And the most surprising part, they stopped being cruel. They stopped mocking me, stopped minimizing me, stopped depending on me. Not because I changed them with money, but because without my money they finally had to change themselves. I don't know what our future looks like. Family isn't a switch you flip on or off. It's a boundary you reshape until it fits. All I know is this. I'm not their backup, clears throat plan anymore. Not their emotional crutch. Not their walking bank account. I'm just Ava, their daughter, their sister, a person separate from what she can provide. And that is the freedom I didn't know I needed.